Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of The Game Plan. This episode is about the Carolina Panthers versus the San Francisco 49ers, a very interesting game from my point of view. What I'm going to be doing, I'm going to run through the injury report, quickly run through the key stats for the NFL teams, then I'm going to run through the key gambler stats, and I'm going to use all that to make a game plan that historically has been very accurate when I do these things, and then also project the fantasy football stats as well. So stay tuned. Before we get rolling here, please remember, if you can spare 2 seconds to give me 2 clicks, a like and a subscribe. There are a couple of features, believe it or not, that are locked for YouTube providers of entertainment like ourselves. We would like to unlock some of those features. We have to be a YouTube partner. So if you give me that like and subscribe, we're going to be even closer there. Small thing for you, big thing for us. But let's get rolling here. First thing I like to do is look at the injury report. And just to bear in mind, everybody, I don't really root for a single NFL team. I grew up a Redskins fan, but Dan Snyder ruined that for me. So now all I do is watch football, and I just love watching football. I love playing fantasy football, playing daily fantasy, and betting. So I don't have any bias. I don't care about any team. All I care about is my wallet and my fantasy football team. So please don't think that I have any bias against either one of these teams. But when I look at the injury report, you can see the Panthers. Just look at the laundry list of players on the injury report. San Francisco's banged up. It's a good thing they're undefeated because they might have a little bit of a tough sledding moving forward. I think this is a nice test for the San Francisco team. I still love them. Don't worry. I'm not throwing shade at San Francisco in any way. But just look at the report. You have Gerald McCoy. That's a big deal for Carolina because they need run defense. That you're going to need him in the middle. And then Cam Newton, but they've been dealing with him for a while. No other really key injuries. But you see San Francisco, Dante Pettis, Marquise Goodwin, D Ford, George Kittle, Mostert. Both of their offensive tackles are out. Witherspoon, Usyk, Deebo Samuel. Now they have Emmanuel Sanders, and I'm assuming they're going to play him just based on how many people are injured, and that's going to be interesting. I think that's a big trade for San Francisco, and I love that. I just think it might take a little bit of time for Emmanuel Sanders to meld. But keep in mind, Emmanuel Sanders also played when Gary Kubiak was the head coach. He might have some familiarity. Obviously, Kubiak and Shanahan, the Shanahan system, they're all tied in. So, I mean, he might be able to run in the first week. I'll be curious to see what happens there. Okay, next thing I like to do is match the season-long statistics and just look at the run defense versus the run pass offense and so on and so forth. And what I like to do, I don't like to just show, pass offense versus pass offense. I like to show the matchup. So you can see the Panthers right here. The pass offense is 22nd versus the San Francisco 49ers pass defense, which is first. Pass defense for the Panthers is 7th. Pass offense for the 49ers is 25th. And if you look at that, you can see both of these teams are really winning by running the ball. When you have Christian McCaffrey and you have the physical dominance of San Francisco and what they've been able to do this season, with Tevin Coleman, Breida, Mostert, basically everybody that they have running the ball, you can understand why these teams aren't passing as much. But it's kind of interesting. I would say if there's going to be a favoritism there, I would say it favors the 49ers, but you can see neither team really passed the ball well in terms of total yardage, and both defenses do pretty well. Then you look at the run offense and run defense comparison. Pretty similar here. Once again, you have a top 10 run defense on both sides of the defensive ball, but the key difference here and the benefit for San Francisco, again, I know the tackles are out, but let's just look at this high level. If you look at this, it would favor San Francisco if you can run up the gut with those guards in the center. Hopefully the tackles are okay. The Shanahans usually do a pretty decent job of having good guys that can rotate in. I think that favors the San Francisco running game. So I would say in the comparison between the offenses and the defenses, I give a slight nod to San Francisco. Now let's look at the gambler stats, and what I mean by that is people that bet professionally. I'm not a professional bettor, but I do bet quite a bit. I'm a semi-professional bettor. I'm getting there, right? But what they like to look at is yards per play, net yards, third down conversions, turnovers, and so on. So I just put this into a nice stew for everybody to look at. If you can compare, the Panthers gain 5.5 yards per offensive play. The 49ers defense give up 4.2. That's very good for San Francisco. Defensively now, the Panthers give up 4.9. The 49ers gain 5.7. So if you look at this in net terms, the Panthers per play net between offense and defense, net 0.6 of a yard between their offense and defense. San Francisco net 1.5. If you do a team per team comparison, let's see, the net for the Panthers is plus 1.3 offense versus defense. For the 49ers, it's 0.8. So things kind of get a little bit more even there when you look at it. But the comparison, you're probably looking at the 49ers, you're looking at the Panthers. If you average that out, it's 9.7 divided by 2. What is that? It's about 4.85 yards per carry. Am I right on that? 9.7. 4.85. That sounds about right. Yeah, 4.85. Then you look at San Francisco. What can they do? 5.7. You're looking at an average there of about 5.3. So San Francisco per play should net a little bit more throughout the game. Offensive versus defensive third down conversions. The 49ers are great defensively. The Panthers aren't great offensively. And you see this with quarterbacks that are more ball control quarterbacks like Kyle Allen is. Basically what happens is if you get in a third and long, these less experienced quarterbacks have a tough time converting these thirds and long. I saw this in the Buffalo breakdown too with Josh Allen. Basically what this means is Christian McCaffrey and the Panthers running game have to put Kyle Allen in favorable situations. And conversely, San Francisco has to keep them out of those situations. Then you look on the other side of the ball, though. 49ers convert 45%. Panthers only stop about 41%. And then you look at fourth down conversions. San Francisco's great across the board. And I would say Carolina's good, but not great. So the third down, basically extending drives, that goes towards San Francisco for me. If you look at the red zone scoring percentage in terms of touchdowns, the red zone offense for Carolina is pretty good, 60%, but the defense for San Francisco is really good at 23%. They only allow 23% of touchdowns when teams get in there, so they do not break that defense. Now, for Carolina, the red zone touchdowns 61.2% given up compared to 38.5% scored for San Francisco. Again, it's kind of a mismatch the other way. Those things are pretty even to me. And then you finally look at the turnover margin. Both are into positives, but Carolina is forcing more turnovers this season. So, looking at all those things, I see San Francisco banged up. They have a little bit of an edge elsewhere, but because they are banged up, I'm seeing this more and more even. This spread, I believe, was 5.5 the last I checked. So it's Carolina plus 5.5 points versus San Francisco. Spread-wise, it's really, really close for me. But let's look at a game plan, how each team can win. I'm not talking about covering the spread in this instance. I'm talking about how is Carolina going to attack San Francisco? How is San Francisco going to attack Carolina? And we'll just start with Carolina. First, you need to win the turnover battle. I mean, you have the advantage anyway, but I'm looking for a turnover margin of at least +1, but obviously, +2 or more would be better. You got to stick with McCaffrey. This San Francisco run defense is strong. The San Francisco passing defense is strong. The only way, in my opinion, to neutralize this San Francisco defense is to tire out this defensive line. If you can tire, and I haven't seen a team do it yet, but if you can tire this defensive line out, it starts to break up the integrity of the entire defense. Then quarterbacks are going to have more time to throw and find space against this talented defensive backcourt for San Francisco. So they need to do that. They need to use McCaffrey, and I think they need to rotate in Bonifant too. Usually Carolina just runs a one-back format. I think Bonifant needs to get in there a little bit just to keep McCaffrey fresh, but keep the run going. And of course, I'm talking about like a 90% to 10% split. I just don't want to see a 95 to 5% split this week. Play conservative on fourth down. San Francisco's too good at getting off the field. I know Ron Rivera is an aggressive head coach, and I actually favor that more often than not. But in this particular matchup, don't give San Francisco short field. Don't do it. Play conservative. Try to keep this game close. Trust your defense to make it happen, and they have all season. And then lastly, use the slot receiver and tight end. When I was running through and seeing how other teams are attacking this talented San Francisco defense, it seems like working kind of the middle of the field is the way to go there. And of course, Kyle Allen's going to have to get rid of the ball quickly. So I'm thinking Curtis Samuel. I'm thinking Curtis Samuel and Greg Olsen this week for Carolina need to be more involved. I don't think this is DJ Moore's week. And obviously it's Christian McCaffrey. So get the ball out of Kyle Allen's hands, tire that defensive line out, and then figure out a way to win that turnover margin. Now on San Francisco's side, you're beat up. Okay, you're beat up. So how are you going to win this game? You got to run it up the middle. But before that, I have find a receiver. Find any receiver to make a play. If Marquise Goodwin is out, if Deebo Samuel is out, if Dante Pettis, if all of them are out, You figure Emmanuel Sanders has to be active. You got Bourne still there. You have talent on this team, but you're so banged up. Jeez. I mentioned before, but hand the ball off to Coleman, hand the ball off to Breida. Just keep working the middle of that defensive line all day, especially if Gerald McCoy is out. I think that'll be favorable. If Dante Pettis can play, I think he has opportunity to make a big play or two. This is the type of game for Pettis where he can get a deep receiving touchdown pass. I think this is a great opportunity for him if he gets in. I know he's been really kind of up and down throughout his young career. This season he hasn't really flashed, but this is a week he can get in the end zone, so I want to see San Francisco exploit that matchup. And then Carolina's been great against the tight ends, so I don't see this as a great George Kittle week. I like George Kittle quite a bit, but I think really what they have to do is they have to work the middle of the field with other receivers. So, we'll see how that goes. Maybe it's more the screen pass. Maybe you're looking at Matt Breida out of the backfield or Tevin Coleman or whoever. But I still think you need to work that middle of the field. But Carolina just seems to match up well with the tight ends. So Shanahan's going to dial some stuff up. I'm excited to see what he does there. Here's my disclaimer here. Kyle Shanahan is much better at game planning than I am. So I fully recognize that. Rivera too. So, but I'm just trying to give you a preview. Like I said, I do these things with some accuracy here. That brings me over to the RoccoBot projections. If you're not familiar, RoccoBot is basically the statistical engine that I built to project daily fantasy stats. People that follow me make money in daily fantasy. People that follow me win their fantasy football games. I don't know what else to say about it. People throw me hate. People troll me all the time. I really don't care. I'm better more often than I'm not. And I'll if you want to troll me, but I'm happy to compete. But let's move it forward. So I don't think this is a passing game. Kyle Allen and Jimmy Garoppolo both I'm not loving. I do think this is a running back game though. So I love Christian McCaffrey. I love Coleman and Breida. Bonifin, I want to see him exceed these projections. Frankly, I anticipate seeing him exceed these expectations. I want to see him spelling McCaffrey just a little bit more. And when I'm saying spelling McCaffrey, I'm not saying take snaps away from McCaffrey. I'm just saying, take some of those passing attempts and give them to Bonifin, and then McCaffrey can have his usual workload. I do not like DJ Moore. I think Curtis Samuel is the way kind of to attack this defense along with Greg Olsen. So I'm hoping for Carolina's sake that both of those guys exceed the projection 9.44 and 4.63 respectively. And then interesting, if you see both of these defenses are projected at over 10. I think this is a running game and a defensive matchup, a low-scoring game. I think you could play either one of them in fantasy and then certainly in daily fantasy. Just to round it out, the receivers. Now I have a question mark next to Emmanuel Sanders. I would have assumed, given that he was acquired in the middle of the week, I would have assumed that he would be benched or deactivated. But given the given the injuries, they might have to activate. I don't know. Deebo Samuel, I like him this week if he plays. And Dante Pettis, I mentioned before, he has a low projection that's based on a lot of in-season data. He has a matchup this week that he can exploit. I want to see him exploit that. And Kittle, I think you start every week. I just don't think that's the strength of this attack. 8 points. I think that's average. It's kind of a fringe start for me this week. But it's Kittle, man. You're going to start him, and I'm cool with that too. So that takes me through another episode, Carolina versus San Francisco. I think we did 4 this week. Houston, Oakland, I'm going to be recording in just a little bit. We did Philly, Buffalo. We did Arizona, New Orleans. If we continue to get a favorable response, we'll continue to do more of these. Maybe I'll roll out all the games of every week. It's a lot of work, but I'll be happy to do it if we're getting good response. If you have any comments, please let them know. I like being interactive. If you disagree with anything I said, hey, I'm man enough to take it. That's cool. Just don't be the loser that just posts something snarky and goes away. That's it's a waste of your time. It's a waste of my time, and I'm going to ignore it anyway. So, post something if you disagree. Let's have a discussion about it. Help me learn about your team so that I can get better and make better content for you in the future. Once again, please like, subscribe. If you want any of my free content, just tweet at me or send me an email address. We'll catch you on another episode. Thanks, everybody.